Hi, it's time for a little bonus video. Very exciting bonus video on the Mani Shana Shiur. I hope you've been understanding the Mani Shana material, appreciating how the Mani Shana has changed, and how we can learn a lot about the Seder, the history of the Seder from the Mani Shana. Probably when you first saw the version of the Mani Shana that I put up on the Shiur, the version that's found there in all of the ancient manuscripts, all of the old manuscripts of the Mishnah, probably the question that most surprised you was the one about meat. On all other night we eat roasted, stewed, or boiled meat. On this night we eat only roasted meat. Now, if you properly understood this question, you saw that it probably was referring to the fact that during the time of the temple, according to the Torah, according to Exodus chapter 12, you have to roast your Pesach, your Passover sacrifice. You're not allowed to eat it boiled or stewed or cooked with any water. You have to eat it fully roasted. Now, as you've learned in the introduction material, the Seder takes place after the destruction of the temple. So what is this question doing there in the time of the post-destruction period? Why were people still eating their roasted meat if they weren't having their Korban Pesach, their Pesach sacrifice? So I think it's very interesting. I brought you some evidence from the Tosefta, from the Mishnah, I believe it's on page 4 of your sheets, that indeed after the destruction of the temple, there seem to have been Jews that continued to offer something that was like a Pesach sacrifice, or was actually the Pesach sacrifice. In some texts it's called the Gedim Mikulas, the roasted lamb. When we think about it historically, Pesach, unlike other temple rituals which were very temple-oriented, Pesach always had a family character to it. It still has a very strong family component to it. But even in the Torah, Exodus doesn't seem to describe a ritual that's done in the temple. The book of Exodus seems to describe a ritual that's done in the home. And while it's true that in Devarim we hear that the Pesach sacrifice has to be brought to the temple, still I think that Pesach never really lost its home quality. And so when the temple was destroyed, I can easily understand why many people might have said, look, we may have lost the ability to celebrate temple rituals, but we haven't lost the ability to celebrate Pesach rituals, because Pesach is also a home holiday. And in essence, we may also learn, at least from one of these sources, that outside of the temple, while the temple still stood, for instance in Rome, during the Second Temple period, there may have been people that were offering up this Gedim Migulas, this roasted lamb. It might not have been so clear to them that if they're not in the temple, or not near Jerusalem, or not at least in the land of Israel, that they can't offer a Pesach sacrifice elsewhere. So while it's true that eventually, over a long period of time, Jews did lose the practice of offering a Pesach sacrifice, we can still get the sense that that was something that was given up even more reluctantly than the other sacrifices. Most of the other sacrifices, most of the time we learn that Jews simply did not believe that they could offer them after the temple. But here we learn about Rabban Gamliel, who continued to tell his slave, offer up, go roast a lamb on Pesach, roast the Gedim Mikulas. We read in the Mani Shana, seeming allusion to people eating the roasted meat. We read in other places in the Mishnah, in Psachim, in the Mishnah, in Beitza, of this custom to continue to eat roasted meat. We even, as I brought on the sheets, even in the Cairo Geniza Haggadot, which are the earliest written Haggadot that we have in existence, they contain a question, a bracha, a blessing about eating meat. And it's clear that when you bless over something, it's not just a special blessing mentioning that food, that it's not just a food that you eat because you're hungry, it's a food that you eat because it has ritual significance. When we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu al achirat matzah or maror, commanded us to eat matzah or maror, we don't just eat matzah and maror because we're hungry. We eat matzah and we eat maror because those are ritually significant foods. So Jews for probably close to 1,000 years, or at least 700-800 years after the destruction of the temple, were still eating meat which they considered to have ritual significance. I would be surprised if it were not true that many of you impart ritual significance to your grandmother's brisket or your grandfather's brisket. I'll be egalitarian, or the traditional dishes that you're served at Pesach. And that just goes to show you how much some of these dishes, these foods at our central meal can really become kadosh, holy, and ritualized, and very significant and meaningful, and reminders of the past, reminders of identity, even in foods that don't have any pure religious significance.